If you had no clue who you was and you were in New York City, what would you do in that time and what might trigger your memories to come back? Well, we're going to go over that idea because it's kind of the premise of this new film that released recently, and we're going to get into that review right now. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. Today we're going to be reviewing the film Italian Studies, which made its world premiere at this year's Tribeca Film Festival 2021. Now, Academy Award nominee Vanessa Kirby is your lead here, and she is this mysterious lady who is in New York City, and she has no clue who she is. And as the night gets deeper, she encounters this young man who she becomes fond of, and while they explore the night, she actually has this random occurrence that happens which starts to trigger her memories back. So that's like the mild premise of this film, and it seems very simple, but this film actually was a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be. I thought the premise was interesting. As a fan of Vanessa Kirby, I thought that this could be a really breakout performance here. She killed her performance. That's not even a question. Like, I knew that was going to happen, but I was really curious about how this film will play out, because one way or another, New York City, if you've never been to New York City, like, being lost in New York City is one thing, but being lost in New York City and not knowing who you are, I couldn't even imagine. So, like, I know this was just a drama, but it almost felt like a horror to me, because I just would not know what I would do and how would I occupy that time. Like, I've been in New York City where I had to kill time before I had to get on a bus to get back home, and I'm telling you, 3 hours feels like a lifetime. And the fact that she had no clue who she was, no money, essentially homeless, I was all for, like, what is she about to do? And how did this all come about? But anyway, yeah, so, it's really about her really captivating being on the streets for about 24 to 48 hours. And, while she is, have no money and homeless, she's having encounters with people. A lot of people are looking at her kind of weirded out, like, hey, what are you doing? And she's, hungry. So, just how is she going to eat? How would she survive? How would she not get in trouble? But ultimately, how would she spark her memories back? But she does encounter this young man who is really chill, and he's just at a hot dog shop, and they're just talking. They decide to kick it and whatever, and she's having a good time with him. And it is like one of those random encounters with somebody that seems really, it's harmless, and that's what it was. But at the same time, while this is happening in the story, we're also getting another part of this film where it's like therapy session. And these therapy sessions, we clearly hear her voice, but we never see her. And she's basically having these sessions with everybody she's encountering on these night and a half of her being out here. So it's really about, well, how did this come about? And, like, how does this all play out? Nonetheless, we get to a point where she does encounter this other young lady who says, like, hey, you're this, real famous author. Like, I really like your work. And she wrote this book, Italian Studies, which was basically a collection of short stories. And when she found out that, hey, this is her, she reads the book, and things start to slightly come back, or at least give her a little bit of purpose as to what she needs to do. And the book gave her clues, and the clues led her to other people. And eventually, something clicks to the point that she realizes that at the moment where she lost the memory, what she needs to get back to. So, the big question is, because of some of the things that happened in the story, was she suffering from a condition? Or was this some type of experimentation that she was going on for these 24 to 48 hours? And that's really up for you to determine. But I will say this too, like, the film did have a lot of good message. Like, in these therapy sections, like, they talked to these kids who basically talked about their fears and expectations of life in a very unorthodox way and viewpoint, which I really appreciated. So there was a lot of good tidbits on that. And then also too, the whole premise around her, whether it was an experiment or whether it was a condition, but the whole way how she embraced these 24 to 48 hours also had a message in its own too that I believe some people could relate to. But overall, Vanessa Kirby's performance was stellar. I thought the cinematography was really good, and then just the visuals of New York City as well is just always a pleasure to look at. And I think that this film being a really short film, I think the film was about an hour. It's about 80 minutes, so like, you know, it's really not that long, an hour and 20 minutes. And it's really driven on performance and really the message behind it. It is under the spotlight narrative, so you obviously, you know, there's a message coming from out of it. And I think there's, you know, whether it's within the therapy session that was happening or rather just the whole premise of the film, there's something that you will be able to gravitate to and be like, yep, I can relate to that. But overall, again, the big what is this film about is really left to your interpretation to kind of say like, hey, you know, is this basically a new perspective of life, yet this experiment, or is this really something that she's suffering from, which she kind of hints towards both ways with this. And that's, again, this is why this is one of those type of things where it's up to you to determine how you think this plays out. So I like the little mystery factor in this as well too. But yeah, Italian Studies, this was the film I was definitely interested to check out. I enjoyed it. I totally want you all to check it out and let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. And as always, folks, we got more reviews coming very soon, so stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching, folks. See you soon.